Hey Canucks fans, I've seen enough. I think it's time to reunite the Lotto Line. I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter. I'm at Clay Emo on Instagram. I'm the founder of the GLCBC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club. This is my Canucks take on one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Monday, August the 3rd. This is where we get Canucks insight that's positive and timely. And happy BC Day to all my friends in our beautiful province of British Columbia. Okay, I've had some time to digest last night's 3-0 loss to the Minnesota Wild. Thanks to everyone who joined me and my son Sean on his 19th birthday for my post-game live stream last night. Relatively okay mood considering the circumstances, and I wish we had a better game and a Canucks win to help Sean celebrate his 19th birthday, but it was cool that he came on for the first 10 or 12 minutes. It was cool that you guys greeted him, and then he was able to answer some Canucks questions as well. But I've had some time to reflect on the game. I had a good night's sleep, actually, my first good night's sleep in a few days. And while I'm not panicking, I do think in a short series, you can't wait too long to make adjustments. And that's why I think Travis Green should definitely reunite the Lotto Line starting for Game 2. And of course, that would be swapping Brock Boeser and Tyler Toffoli. We know how good the Lotto Line was before Brock Boeser got hurt in early February. Of course, the Lotto Line 649, for those of you that don't live in BC, that's one of our famous lotteries here. Is it in Canada actually? No, yeah, it's a Canadian-wide lottery. So we know that 6 is Boeser, 40 is Pettersson, and 9 is Miller, 649, the Lotto Line. And that Lotto Line was good until Boeser got hurt. The reason why Boeser got hurt, that was because Boeser got hurt, that's the reason why we brought in Tyler Toffoli and traded for him. And Tyler Toffoli seamlessly filled in on that line, which was good. But to me, I always thought that as Toffoli being a placeholder, like Toffoli's always been, I'd say, a second liner as opposed to a first liner. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong, Stanley Cup champion, which I'll get to in a minute. But I still think that Toffoli really came in to replace Boeser. And a lot of people like to say, especially in football, when you come to starting quarterbacks, you shouldn't lose your starting spot to injury. And if that's the case, I think Brock Boeser should be back on the top line with Pettersson and Miller. Now, remember when Boeser came back, he only got one game back before the league. I almost swore there, but it was by accident. Before the whole league almost shut down, or it did shut down in the middle of March. So he only got that one game against the New York Islanders, the final game of the season for the Vancouver Canucks and for the Islanders, I guess, as well. And in that game, because I think the line of Miller, Pettersson, and Toffoli was going so good, and because Boeser was just reinserting himself in the lineup, it made sense that Travis Green put Boeser with Horvat and Pearson. And Boeser and Horvat have had decent chemistry over the past 3 seasons as well. So that made sense. And then the league, and I was excited, right, to see that top 6 for once. I think all Canucks fans were. But then the league had to shut down, unfortunately, because of COVID. So coming out of the break, I was always a proponent that they should reunite the Lotto Line and then put Horvat between Pearson and Toffoli, who have chemistry together from their many years in Los Angeles, and they won a cup together as well. But I think Travis Green, and rightfully so, saw the success that Toffoli was having with Pettersson and Miller, so he kept those guys together, and they didn't do that much last night, nor did the second line either. And I'm not blaming any particular player individually. The Canucks as a whole had trouble creating offense. Only 4 shots on net in that third period, a period where they were down 2-0, desperately trying to claw back, a period that included their only power play of the game. So you could see that something's got to change. And yes, we knew that Minnesota is stingy, not just their top 4D, but their team as a whole. They're very good defensively. So it makes it even harder when you're trying to come back in the final frame. So it was frustrating to watch the Canucks only get 4 shots on net in that third period and only 1 over the last 11 minutes of the game, which was painful. And that, like I said, included a power play as well. So why not change things up and see what we can do, see what they can do. I don't play on the team. But we know the chemistry, we know the success that the Lotto Line can have. And Boeser, I think, was the Canucks' best forward last night. So he's buzzing. He wants to make an impact. He wasn't generating enough shots because Horvat and Pearson didn't have particularly strong games. Put Boeser with Miller and Pettersson and just see what they can do. And then with Toffoli and Pearson and Horvat, I think they could also have a productive game as well. I think they all got to have a much more productive game than last night. So that's my first thing. And I'm certainly not the only one proposing this. I'm certainly not the only one advocating for the Lotto Line being reunited, but I think I was one of the first. I know I talked about it right at the end of the second period yesterday. I saw others start to tweet about it too, not just because of me. They it's not rocket science. I think they had a similar idea, seeing the way the Canucks were struggling. But I've been talking about this the entire 5-month break. That would be my first choice actually, even though it always looked like Toffoli was going to take that spot. So that's my number one adjustment that I would make when the Canucks play the Wild in Game 2 tomorrow, is put Boeser with Miller and Pettersson, drop Toffoli down to the second line with Horvat and Pearson. Now, do you make any other adjustments? I know a lot of people are clamoring for Jake Virtanen to get in the lineup. He did have 18 goals. He's one of our leading goal scorers in the entire team this season. And what did we need last night? We needed more goals. Also, another thing that Jake does well is draw penalties. And what's another thing that we needed last night is we needed more power plays. We needed a power play that wasn't negated by taking a silly too many men on the ice penalty. And let me talk about that real quick, and then I'll bounce back to Virtanen. That whole play was weird. We saw that Minnesota had a delay penalty being called on them. We saw the ref's arm go up. We saw that I think Pettersson had the puck, so we knew that it was on them. And Markstrom, usually sharp, usually aware, maybe he was zoned out or maybe he was still thinking about that bad goal they let in against Fiala. But he waited a good 3, 5, 7 seconds before skating to the bench. And I'm sure the guys were yelling at Marky, Marky, Marky. As he skates over, maybe the Canucks, this is wrong, got too impatient. One, if not two guys jumped over the boards and it negated our first power play opportunity of the game. And I said that on my live stream. Wouldn't it be cool if we had scored on that and gone into the intermission tied 1-1 instead of down 1-0 with no power play opportunity? And you could put that on Travis Green. He's got to be sharper. He's got to hold his players back and say, Tyler, jump over, or Gaudette, jump, or he's got to really, cue that. Sometimes you have a designated guy who's always the extra man, but you're already one of the 5 skaters. So I still put that on the coaching staff, and the players got to be sharper as well. So more recognition. You just simply can't make those mistakes in the playoffs. And in the playoffs, the margin of error is so thin, right? And good teams will capitalize on your errors. And we saw that yesterday. Minnesota's 2 goals, aside from the empty netter, came on the power play. So back to Jake Virtanen. He can score and he can draw penalties. Those are 2 things that the Canucks didn't do enough of last night. So then if you bring Jake in, who do you take him out for? At first I was thinking Brandon Sutter. But then the more I thought about it, Adam Gaudette might be a candidate. You rarely heard his name last night. He was ineffective. He got smoked 5-on-5, Corsi-wise. Doesn't really win faceoffs. So I think it was Brendan Batchelor suggested this, and I like this a lot. Why not put Sutter in that third line center role? So you still have your penalty killer, and you still have your your center, and you could put Ferland or Jake. So let's say Jake on that third line. So go to Virtanen, Sutter, and Roussel, and then drop Ferland down to the fourth, and you still have Ferland with then Beagle and Mott. So instead of taking Sutter out, you actually take Gaudette out, because you still have 4 centers, and JT Miller can take draws too, so technically 5 centers, and then you can put Virtanen in. Regardless of who comes out, whether it's Gaudette or Sutter or even Roussel, I think you got to give that a serious look because of what Jake can bring to the table. Zach McEwen, I still think, even though he outplayed Jake in the training camp with hardly any NHL experience, I think Zach McEwen still becomes. I don't think you put McEwen even in before Eriksson, but we can talk about that another time. Hopefully we don't have to talk about that. I mean, that means the Canucks are still losing. So that's what I would do. I'd bring in Jake in for Gaudette or Sutter. I was talking about that the whole Ferland's game, kind of scary that he got in a fight right away, but it was good that he continued to play. He went down the tunnel, so it's kind of scared all of us, but it could have been a more equipment adjustment as opposed to having to go see a concussion spotter or anything like that. And then, of course, Ferland made waves near the end of the game when he got in that jousting, spearing match at the Minnesota Wild bench. Thankfully, Ferland was only fined $5,000 from a standpoint of, that's a lot of money to me, but considering that he didn't get suspended or anything. And then Luke Kunin, who ended up grabbing his stick. I think it was funny because Kunin grabbed Ferland's stick, but Ferland just turned and he speared, and he ended up spearing Hartman as opposed to Kunin. So Kunin not only got away with not getting speared, but he did get the lesser of the penalties. But yeah, you can't be, no matter what's happening, you can't be grabbing, if you're on the bench, you can't be grabbing the stick of a player who's on the ice. But yeah, and not justifying Ferland's spear at all. He's lucky that he only got a $5,000 fine. So Ferland I thought was okay, but I did think Boeser was the best forward. I thought Pettersson and Toffoli were among the Canucks' worst forwards, and Gaudette. You know, you want to see more from Pettersson and Toffoli in particular because they are Stanley Cup veterans, Stanley Cup champions, and Pettersson took 2 penalties, one of them very costly to the Canucks, and another needless one that Spear, when skating by Stalock, maybe he thought it would help the Canucks' chances of beating him, but still not a very, very bright penalty to take. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Number 1, reuniting the Lotto Line. Number 2, Ferland only got a $5,000 fine, which is big. That means he can stay in the lineup. Number 3, how do you get Jake into the lineup for sure? And I guess lastly, the defense was okay. Remember, the 2 main goals were shorthanded and then an empty net. And the other one, I thought Markstrom was okay. Sure, he can be better, especially on that first goal. Second goal, there's miscommunication between him and Edler. But aside from those 2 power play goals, that's all he let in. And I thought he was solid enough. He didn't steal the game as we're used to. And yes, that first goal was a bit of a momentum killer right away at 3 minutes in. But I thought the Canucks rebounded throughout the first, and just like Markstrom rebounded throughout the first. So overall, the sky isn't falling yet. I'm not going to throw away 5 months of anticipation, or better yet, 5 years of anticipation for a postseason game. Remember, it's not the playoffs, it's the postseason. I'm going to say that every video. But the Canucks do have to make some adjustments, and I'm fascinated to see what they will be. They're not practicing today, but they will be practicing tomorrow because their game is so late tomorrow. So they'll probably have a morning practice, and then they'll still have the day to recoup, rest, and get into their routine. R&R, recoup, rest, and routine. I think that's what we're going to do today too. It's my last day before I go back to work after a week off. I'm going to recoup, rest, and make sure I get into my work routine once again. So another routine here is I ask you to leave a comment below. Tell me, I guess the question of the day is, would you reunite the Lotto Line for tomorrow, or would you give the respective lines another shot as they did today? Let me know. I would love to know what you think. Leave a comment below. I will read, react, and reply. Subscribe if you like to. Like this video if you like to. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Enjoy the rest of your BC day. I will check with you tomorrow morning ahead of tomorrow night's game. And don't forget, I'll be live streaming after tomorrow night's game as well. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.